Oh boy. Welcome to what, August 26th, this 2025 Norwalk Tree Advisory Committee meeting, online and live coming to you from City Hall. Um, did anyone hear from Gay? I think she said she was or was not going to attend this last email.
I think Gay is away, and then
Yes.
Rich
Is
is
away,
not available either, right?
right? So what you have is 3 out of 5. Does that make a quorum?
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. By the hair of my chinny chin chin, if you will. All
Correct.
right, so we did our roll call. Is there anyone here from the public that would like to join in or have a few things to say?
There
I
is
don't,
not.
there is not. Okay. Then I guess we will proceed with the acceptance of the meeting minutes from last month, which were actually fairly thin, if you will. We didn't have much to talk about. I had read them. I didn't necessarily have any comments. Sonia, anything? Erica, yay or nay? Put your thumbs up, thumbs down. I don't know. So I'm making a motion. So I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes.
I'll second it.
Hey, Erica, do I get a yes? She's really laying low. All right, it's seconded anyway. Very good. So then we move on. And if I look correctly, we do have the reports from Sarah, tree planting updates and watering replacements. Let's see what you can do all at once.
All right, so just jumping back to spring, this past spring, we planted just over 50 trees, and the reason that number was so low again is because of funding restraints. We utilized all of the ARPA funding in 2024, and so primarily we were left with money in the MLK account. Um, and so for this fall, we are aiming to hit between 300, 350, maybe 400 trees for the year. Luckily, budget is not an issue. I'll get into a little funding update after that, but seeing as I have 3 seasonal folks working with me right now, we seem pretty good to be on target. And I've been communicating with Almsted to kind of give them a heads up that, we will have a lot of orders for this fall. So jumping into a funding update as of right now, so after the spring 2025 season, we have just a little bit under 100K, 100,000 in the MLK ECD account. And just kind of a note there, Paul, maybe you can remind me when that grant began, but that is a funding source that we really want to utilize like sooner than later, because it's been there for quite a while.
Yeah, that grant began at least 2 years ago. I think it might have even been three, actually now. It probably was summer of 22.
So that is a priority to utilize. Big positive is that the DPW tree planting account was approved for the 2025-2026 fiscal year at 200,000, which I think is historic, and it's double the amount that we had last fiscal year. So that is really, really great. We also have $30,000 remaining in the what we call the GGP account, which is money set aside, I believe, from the Sono collections. When that project started, money was set aside to plant trees within primarily the South Norwalk area. Paul, feel free to hop in if I have anything incorrect. And then in the recreation and parks, what we call a tree planting account, but that money is also utilized for things like Olmsted doing plant healthcare treatments on our beaches and our parks and things like that. There's about $30,000. So in total, we have $360,000 at the moment to be utilized between now and basically June 30th of 2026. So for this fall, my number one goal was to address all the outstanding tree requests because we had a lot, over 250. And so we're digitizing that system in a lot of ways, which has been super helpful. But we are on target to do that. We just recently sent out emails to folks who We unfortunately cannot plant in the area that they requested. Maybe there's just a 4-foot wide sidewalk. There's no opportunity to plant in that area, or they don't really have front yard space, things like that, maybe utility issues. But we do have a lot of locations that are looking viable. Our second goal for this fall is so this spring we did, I think, 8 or 9 tree pits on South Main Street in South Norwalk. They look really nice. They're small. They have Japanese alcovas and Japanese tree lilacs, but we did what we could in that area. And so we're looking to create 10 new tree pits. We have a couple locations on Eli or Ellie Avenue near MLK. And we're going to be scouting some other locations. I'd prefer to plant those later in the fall season, not when it's still hot in September. So that's our second goal. And then number 3 is that, and I'll get into it later, but through the tree inventory that's been taking place and resumed this year, we did set aside like a budget within that project to identify up to 2,500 tree planting sites. And so that list is great. You know, we gave them our parameters as to what is plantable within the right of way. And so we're able to work off of that list, which is super, super efficient, rather than, you know, trying to scrounge for locations.
So,
One-
couple.
One one of the things I just mentioned too, in addition to, the money that we've got in trying to plant trees to increase the canopy too. Any of the project work that we're doing, where Sarah and I are trying to work with our engineering division so that any kind of trees that need to be touched for sidewalks and things like that, there's money incorporated in the projects for that, rather than taking it out of tree planting accounts too. So to really beef up the tree planting accounts to really maximize the amount of tree canopy that gets put in.
Right, we had been requesting that those numbers start showing where capital improvements includes monies for land, you know, for tree placements. So that's actually a bonus to hear that's actually happening, because it is part of the project.
And I can also say with the complete streets guide and ordinance, you know, planting within the amenity zone is highly encouraged depending on the street typology. So that also kind of works in our favor and is being built into projects, not sidewalk projects leaving tree pits for us to kind of figure out how to fill with our own budget.
I'm
That's
sorry, can
another
I
thing
just,
that'll help.
I'm sorry, Paul, just 1 second. So Erica's texting me. She's having some issues with her audio. So she's going to text me when she does have a comment, and she just wanted me to thank Sarah for updating the committee on the tree inventory.
Okay, great. I do have a question though. So 250, 2,500 locations. Who actually, who set those? I'm just, you know, who are they?
Sorry. Yeah, so the consultant for the tree inventory is Planet Geo, and they use their system Tree Plotter. And so they're consulting arborists when they're out inventorying and putting, you know, trees within the right of way in their system. We ask them to also, because they offer the service, identify potential planting sites. And again, we gave them parameters like if the grass strip is less than 3 feet, no, it's not possible. Yeah.
So if I go back to number 1, we've got, theoretically, you're looking to put in 250 trees this year, in addition to the 50 you've already placed, right?
Mhm.
So that seems a little bit, you know, positive thinking for the fall. But in terms of the prioritization of those locations, we're mentioning people who request them. What I'm not hearing is going back to some of our original sort of goals and objectives of focusing on major arteries in the city, places that require street tree plantings, those kind of areas as opposed to individual homes. So I don't necessarily want to see, and I'll be frank, this money blown on individual homeowners. I would rather see some of the prioritization go on to the main streets like Martin Luther King. So I don't know how that's being gauged. I'm not necessarily part of these decision making, But I want to ensure that we're focusing on some places that we've actually seen the effects, which is like Beach Avenue, out to Calf Pasture. I mean, those trees have been in now over a decade and they're starting to finally grow. But we haven't really talked about major arteries, particularly with the Sono collection monies. I mean, I'll tell you right now that strip, that median on Martin Luther King, or what's the section? What's that?
Avenue.
What's the-
West Avenue, yeah.
West Avenue should be planted with trees from these budgets. So, I mean, that takes a little bit of investigation, some internal discussions, and, you put a line of 50 trees in down the center of the road this fall. That's not that complicated. So I don't know if other members on the advisory committee have target locations where we look at a holistic planting that can utilize some of our funding, because we are still flush.
Yeah, let me just clarify that the tree requests, that's just like our online system, and not all of them are adopt a tree, private tree requests. I think we only have like 12 that are viable this fall, but otherwise they are public roads. But I agree, Peter, we had discussed that like last meeting or maybe in
Right,
June.
meeting
West
before that.
Avenue, it's going to require more planning than kind of our normal walk around and stake, but that is definitely a priority area.
In other locations, in the past, we've tried things about looking at, Main Street out to the Merritt Parkway interchange. A lot of those properties are commercial, there's complications, a little bit pie in the sky. But if we're willing to start looking at the investment into building tree pits like we are in South Norwalk, then we might be able to think of things a little bit differently. So, maybe there's a separate meeting this advisory committee can pull together for a strategy that looks at some of the criteria for where we're spending the monies. Because also
Yeah.
I'm hearing, and I don't know the conditions, but we put in Zelkova, and what were the trees in these new tree wells in South Norwalk?
Japanese tree lilac, where we could only get maybe a 3-foot by 4-foot
Mm.
tree pit in. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just if there's no overhead wires, those trees are all low branching.
Yeah,
So
there
if you're right up against the sidewalk, they're gonna get whacked by cars or whatever, or people are gonna have trouble walking by them. So things like, perhaps I don't know, columnar, what were you, sweet gums on West Avenue as well, Paul? Sweet gums are columnar, they're narrow. Just some thought to maybe sticking to that canopy tree issue. So covers are low branch, they're pretty, I mean, they're
We-
durable, but they're pretty low branch for adjacent.
We had to be very creative down there because of the space too, between the sidewalk, what we had left in order to meet the ProAg standard of 4-foot sidewalk after the tree pit. Plus what we had for utilities underground, as Sarah saw, we had a couple of them that were we shoehorned in. And then we had one that we ended up not being able to do because of the fact that there was a gas main right through that we couldn't make it work.
I mean, like columnar cherries might work well, those kind of things. But
Mhm.
some I just worry when they get like the Carpinus would not work.
Mhm.
Hornbeam doesn't work because it gets too wide for the adjacent sidewalks. So just a note while I was hearing it, but I think
Yeah, I would kind of put forward like now that we have a full canopy assessment from the tree master plan. I mean, there's a way to overlay tree
But-
requests with that canopy assessment. There's a
Yeah.
way to overlay locations that you all see as priority planting sites there. The only thing I will say is like when we're getting down to South Norwalk and the MLK
Hard.
Boulevard area is it's so limited because of it's all pavement. So these tree pits are really important. And this is kind of like a pilot that we're doing with Olmsted for these up to 20 sites, but it's very needed.
no, it's part of the cost, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And a lot of those properties are, owner not occupied.
But we have Sonia. We got a lot in over there at least.
Yeah, we did. And I'm sitting in my yard and I can still see the train, but it's not as hideous looking because I got a lot of trees blocking it out.
Property valued enhancements.
Exactly.
Great. No, wonderful. All right.
I had a question, because just while we were on the topic of sidewalks in general, we've been getting a couple of requests just to see where we can and can't preserve or reroute sidewalks. So I just was double checking that you guys are, I mean, I trust that you are, but we direct them to you and Paul. So I don't know if they've reached out or not, but there's a couple of places that were getting new sidewalks, or there was sidewalk improvements, and there were some old growth trees that they were hoping could remain. So wherever you can, I would still advocate for keeping them, unless it becomes a severe in the way object, right? Or like you absolutely can't, but where you can, please continue to do so.
Yeah, when we're laying out the sidewalks and we are working with any consultants, we're doing it too. We are trying everything we can do in order to keep them. And Sarah can attest to how many times she's been asked to go out and look at some of the ones that have gone on with some of the various projects that are going on right now. We try to do whatever we can do to save them.
No, I know you can. I just want to reiterate it. Just make sure you guys, it's on your minds.
Yeah, no, I from working in New York City, I saw a lot of roots cut right across one side and would see them topple over a year later. So I feel like it's a newer topic. Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, but me, Paul, and Chris Torrey it's like a long-term discussion on strategies. We're working on these capital improvement projects, and it's a very hard balance of where can we, fit in preservation as much as possible without, potentially damaging a tree's root systems beyond repair, and what does that look like for liability for the city? It's a very tough
Yeah.
line to walk, but
And there's accessibility codes that you need to meet as well. So yeah, we need to provide access. The city needs to provide access. So
Just to give you an example of one we tried to look at, over on Flaxville Road, we had one particular person that was like, oh, great about said they'd be willing to let us put the sidewalk on their property even, but the only problem with that was if we did it, it came out into the middle of the neighbor's driveway. So it was just, it would have worked out great if we could have brought it back around, but it just wasn't enough to get the sidewalk back out to the street without going into the neighbor's driveway halfway down the driveway, and that just wasn't gonna work. Just not to mention that they might not like it, plus the fact that it's just a safety issue with somebody on a sidewalk with somebody backing out of a driveway, it just doesn't mix well. So wherever we can, we're looking at trying to do it.
thank you.
thanks, Jeff. Check into watering and
Yep, on watering and tree replacements.
so in the last 2 months, unfortunately, we're seeing significantly lower survivability in our trees that were planted, particularly in the fall of 2024 and the spring of this past year. There are some locations that are very obvious, and we're receiving a lot of service requests through customer service or emails directly. And so I've been in discussions with both contractors trying to figure out what exactly is the issue. Is it capacity or what it might be? But they have been instructed that dead trees need to be removed ASAP, especially particularly the ones that are at our schools as school enters session. But notably, like through our watering report, there was minimal watering May through early July. We had a really wet May and June, which was great, but obviously that needs to be continued. So that is a major issue right now. But again, I am, in communications with both Olmsted and Minutemen regarding that issue. And all trees are still under guarantee. They will be required to be replaced, per our contract.
And these are all being kept on record with our GIS kind of things.
Yeah.
Because, as we had noted, Dana, I had sent you some trees which are at risk for watering. So those things being on notice now, you know, because I'm sure the vendors are gonna say, wait till spring on those several. And so they need to be documented that they were pointed out, you know, well in the early part of their planting career.
Yeah. I've been lucky to have, you know, these seasonal interns and staff to be able to check everything since fall 2023. Basically, we ended last week, and so that is our deadline for guarantee period. I
Great.
cannot say in the past that we've been able to kind of do that double check before the guarantee expires.
Good. Good, good, good. Also, I'm just curious, if there's a higher rate of mortality, is it because they're not following proper planting protocols? You know, in terms of soil amendments and getting the tree dug correctly and planted correctly. I don't expect you to answer. It's just, you know, is that part of the mortality rate on their end? You know, are they putting the time into preparing those pits?
Yeah, I'll say that one contractor is really great with their planting quality from, you know, being on site and witnessing it, especially. I think watering was really the factor there. And I'm seeing classic dieback where we have half a crown intact and it's
Mhm.
pretty obviously. Every once in a while we have mechanical damage like a weed whacker or some other issue. We have one that was hit by a car. So, but for the most part, yeah.
Very well. Anything else on watering? We good? Move forward on old business. What do we got for old business?
Nothing on
I-
my end.
It's not your end. I can pull up tree planting details on what we sort of introduced the issue last month about looking at what the city was looking to do moving forward with structural soils and if the mobility department was actually looking to use those specifications in particular down here on Wall Street. So that's something I think we would like to, you know, sort of review and engage with to be helpful if we can, because there are other systems besides the structural soils. There are other support systems that are, you know, possible. So it would be good to have a handle on something like that. And actually, with the anticipation that even if it's not a public project, that private projects start looking at those capacities for providing underground structure to cantilevered walks and supporting sidewalks. It's not unreasonable given the development that goes on in the city and the level of development. So we'd like to continue to push on those details if we can.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah, and I just received a detail for the detail for the Wall Street project from TMP Peter.
Great.
And then I have another detail from a recent DPW project. So I was going to send both over and see. Both are from consultants. They're not in-house, but the point is,
Good.
can we make one in-house? That's a city standard detail and have that be kind of the Bible. But
And we're also just plain set criteria for what has to get done.
yeah.
I don't think there is any criteria at the moment.
Sarah and I have talked, it would be good too, if we did have our own city detail, that way there we could make everybody do the same thing and adhere to the same quality standards and also the same size, pits, everything else, so that it's consistent throughout.
As a target, yes.
Mhm.
Absolutely. So that was old the business, I think. Anything else on old business? Or are we moving to new business?
Well, I just had one quick question. Sarah, right before you came on, I was asking if anybody ever remembered anything about that ginkgo tree for the library. Did you ever hear from anyone on that?
Yes, I've been in contact with Sherelle, and Tammy from the
Okay.
library. There's like a hold up there, but I am in contact with them. We should be able to make that happen.
Okay. But you had not heard anything on it previously?
Not before I joined the committee, but I
Right.
did look back and we had a tree request. It's just
Okay,
usually
so
like
there was. Okay.
memorial trees reach out directly so we can make sure it's more like time sensitive kind of, you know.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
I was just following up because the last time Tammy reached out to me, I was like, listen, Sarah does not report to me. I cannot tell you how soon she's gonna call you. Just wait until she calls you.
No, I got it.
All right.
Well, it's good choice, I suspect, given an urban location. Should grow. I'll give the floor to Sarah, I guess, urban forestry goals. Which a little partial handout was included in our weekly package here.
Thank you for noticing the handout. Delene, I'm going to attempt to share my screen to show the.
Okay, you should be fine.
Let's see. There we go.
Just make sure you open it first before you hit the share.
Can you all see this browser page?
Yep.
All right, so Erica had asked, about goals primarily for like 2025, gonna think about it in fiscal years, but 2025 to 2026. And I felt like the best resource to kind of, or framework to work around was in our tree master plan, the kind of final step in the plan is this 10-year roadmap. I'm just going to start with, this is the overall, 10-year roadmap, but there are specific kind of strategies or actions that are recommended in here. And I can start by kind of noting what the city is prioritizing more short term, but this is more, open discussion for the committee, both in, where does TAC fit in this? And also what do you all, what input you all might have on what should or be a priority or strategies to kind of meet these goals. Is that all right with you, Peter? If I just kind of run through what the
No,
goals are and things?
go through, point out a few things.
Yeah, so starting with the tree planting strategy, I think this winter, again, this fall, I'm really trying to address all the tree requests because we value people giving their input, and I want to make sure we get back to them on that. But I think winter 2025 is a great time to look at, in order to meet our goal of 53% by 2050, we need to be getting closer to the 1,600 trees planted a year. And that's not entirely, by the city. It could be seedling giveaways. Obviously, Jeff, the NTA, other local orgs like the Norwalk Land Trust, the Garden Club. I just think that this winter is a good time to begin kind of strategizing how do we actually get there. If we're at an average of 400 to 500 per year, money is a major constraint, but it also kind of takes a village to get there.
Yeah, I mean, just off the cuff, 1,600 trees is about $1.2 million, given contracted planting rates.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted you to take note of that, Sonia. I heard an O, but it's
Yeah,
significant.
because that's a lot.
So, like the Norwalk Tree Alliance can put trees in the ground, we need to take advantage of that.
And encouraging homeowners to plant like on their own, and also development is a huge part of that as well.
Luck with that, with the getting owners to plant on their own.
Yeah.
I can't even
Yeah.
get the owners to water.
Sarah, I was gonna say before, I agreed that focus on the main arteries when you can, and if you get the tree requests, send them over as many as you can, because those are mostly going on homeowners' properties. And
Yeah.
we can get them in the ground.
Certainly. But I do think that's a great thing to be able to focus on over maybe after October when planting is less hectic. But yeah, I see that as the committee having certainly a role in that. The public tree inventory is in progress, set to be completed likely by early winter, spring next year. Sorry, so let me go in here.
I'm not sure if my audio is actually working, but do we have someone working on the inventory, or do you want me to try to find a student to do that?
Yes, we can hear you, Erica, and no, we have our consultant, Planet Geo. They're about 50 a little over 50% complete doing that on their own through a public contract. And so, yeah, that should be completed by the end of this year through that contract.
Awesome, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm gonna skip to community outreach and engagement, which is definitely a priority of both this committee and certainly, you know, when I came on with the city, this was a major priority for the creation of my position. So strengthening existing relationships, but also kind of building more of an outreach and education component to the city's program and just in the community as a whole. Definitely see the committee's role in that. Trying to follow my paper while also scrolling on here. Updates to city plans. So the tree master plan was adopted in April of this year, and certainly in its implementation, we'll need to integrate it into, I mean, the plan of conservation and development, that's going to be a while before that needs to be updated, but ensuring that there's overlap or cohesion between things like the Complete Streets guide and ordinance and any other kind of city plans that are out, ensuring that kind of they're also sharing the goals of increasing canopy and proper tree maintenance.
So Sarah, I'm looking, I think we're talking about green infrastructure integration. So what is the mechanism by which we can ensure that or facilitate that, I should say? So it is not a casual thing that planning and zoning will increase the need for trees on a commercial development unless that plan for green infrastructure integration and the target for increased city planting trees is in the zoning requirements. So how do we move forward with the actual integration of this into the policies of each department?
Yeah, I think on the P&Z side of things, it would require updates to zoning regulations. There was a recent update that does require certain developers to create new sidewalks, improve existing sidewalks, and also they can be directed to plant trees depending on the other site plans. There are certain requirements for planting trees, especially in parking lots. I think it's like every 75 feet you need to, but that really needs to be strengthened. And
Right. I haven't looked at those recently, but is this a place where the advisory committee could help you build the languages get into the zoning, the various locations? So I'm looking to say where the advisory committee could actually help you integrate this into the city policies.
absolutely, yeah, particularly with P&Z, like with y'all's experience. I think also with green infrastructure, it's and that's Paul's piece when we're thinking about drainage and stormwater
Yes.
retention.
And we've been actively looking for sites where we can do some green infrastructure projects, and we've even gotten a couple of cycles now where we've gotten some capital budget money to do it. So where we've got the right spot to do the right project with drainage too, we're starting to try and integrate that into our design work.
Because moving forward, it's the requirement or the education of both the persons doing approvals and the developers to understand that tree planting is an infrastructure, it is not a tree. We still have a way to go. And I recently did a testimonial to this effect on a proposed development where landscaping is an action, but landscape is a noun, and it's a system. So we're making strides, but let's see how through the master plan or tree plan, we can help you facilitate to be embedded in the city's, sort of structures moving forward.
Yeah, and I see that happening through standards and also regulations.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, from your positioning, point at directions where we can help you.
Yeah, agreed. That's huge.
That's all I had on my end. All of these are priorities, as I said, but it's in terms of what becomes, priority number one in the timeline. We do get into the plan does get into a little bit more specific timelines. We have short term years 2 through 5, expanding tree planting. Obviously, that is in progress, but meeting this goal of 1,600 annually is something we need to figure out. Monitoring and reporting, I feel like we're starting to build on that. But again, I included this because I think this is the opportunity for the committee to kind of see what is your place, where are your strengths, how are you able to work
Sarah,
together.
can we just remind people where these numbers came from originally? Why we're working towards these specific goals?
Yeah, so in the creation of the tree master plan, the main focus for the master plan was to, number one, assess our tree canopy in Norwalk. And that's not just a tree by tree basis. Like an inventory is a great tool, knowing every single tree within, in public property or within the right of way. But more importantly, what is our actual physical tree cover in Norwalk? Because that's a baseline to guide us on where are we lacking tree canopy? Where do we need to prioritize planting and things like that? And so by analyzing what our existing urban tree canopy looks like, the consultant was able to kind of benchmark with other cities of similar size, demographics, also taking into account, ecological benefits, where should we be in terms of carbon capture and stormwater capture. And that number comes basically from what is our goal canopy coverage, and that's 53% is really where we want Norwalk to be, comparable to other cities in Connecticut. Obviously, we are way less forested than a place like Danbury or New Milford or Hartford. But
Does that all go back to that West Cog study? Is that what we're kind of using as a benchmark?
so Westcog was like the latest canopy assessment before the master plan was created. So the canopy assessment from this plan is from 2023, so a lot more updated. And I believe we were at 43% canopy coverage, which is quite low for our city. And so, very long story short, the calculations in order for us to get to 53% coverage by 2050 is to be able to add 1,600 additional trees per year across all land types and ownership and all of that.
Sonia, we're gonna have to get shovels.
I think so. I'm game.
And I'm getting
All right. I think we exhausted. Sarah, anything else under new business?
yes. Very quickly, the public tree inventory, if I can.
Oh, sorry. I thought you covered that one.
I know you're sick of hearing from me.
No. I thought you covered it with your GIS.
No. And this is my last screen share item. I just included this in the packet. I'd mentioned we're just over 50% complete with our tree inventory, which is working off of the consultant's projection that we have about 25,000 trees on public property in Norwalk. So I just wanted to include this visual representation. All of these little dots represent trees that have been put into the system. Each of those dots is a singular tree point, and they include info like the tree species, the size of the tree. And so you can see like the Oak Hills area, West Norwalk, the Cranberry area, that has not been hit yet. But this is kind of the update, and we really wanted to focus on what most folks call like the urban core, but our major arterials, South Norwalk, things like that. So that's where we're at.
Are these existing trees in the ground today or spots on public property that can be planted?
Primarily existing trees, and then 2,500 of those points are potential tree planting sites. So we're at, let's say, like 12,000 actual trees, existing trees in the inventory.
You know, it's, I'm just a comment, I'm looking at Newtown Avenue. And I'm saying, Waldo, that's in, you know, with the Cranberry area, you wouldn't necessarily need it, think it would need street trees, but it might. And I'm just gonna parallel that with if, those of us who have an opportunity to get off on the Merritt Parkway, South Avenue exit New Canaan, that runs along Waveney Park to downtown. That street is lined with, you know, overhead canopy trees. And there are no utilities along it, there are no high-powered utilities along it, which makes a difference. But it is, what I would say, an illustration of what is a desirable street canopy cover on a, you know, secondary city street. And the city of New Canaan, I believe it's the town of New Canaan, has recently reinforced their tree lines along that street, along of Saks Middle School and down to downtown. So it really is sort of an illustration of how to keep that, you know, high canopy cover over our secondary arteries on streets that we may not think need the attention. Because in hindsight, I didn't think South Avenue was in need of trees, but, you know, since they put them in, I realized there was great sky, you know, the great opportunity that was missing or had not been addressed. So just that's part of our sort of, when we drive around as a committee, those are the kind of things we can identify.
Agreed, Peter, agreed. And I just want to point out that while I understand we have to have benchmarks, of course, you know, cities to compare ourselves to, I want to ensure that we're aware that New Haven is about a third of the size smaller than Norwalk. Norwalk's about a third larger and has about a third more population. So while we can compare ourselves, if we're going to look at statistics, we have to take all of these things into consideration to get real hardcore data. And I'm more than happy to run stats and get that information, because we are probably in a much better position than we look if we're comparing ourselves to someone much smaller than us.
Yeah.
Well, I think Stanford would be the immediate comparison.
Agreed.
I mean, the land is, it is a larger city, but its urban core is probably comparable.
And one of the things with Stanford too, is they probably have more impervious area down in the southern section, but
Oh,
they
yeah.
have so much more green space up in the northern section that offsets that and makes up for it too.
Right, if we looked at below the Merritt Parkway as sort of a, you know, as a dividing line, which is
Yeah.
actually a climate line, isn't it? What was the zone? There's two zones. What are we, 5 above and four above and 5 below?
Yeah, I guess my comment is just that if we're going to use benchmarks, we should make sure we're comparing apples to apples.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
definitely. And the Westcog study was solely for Connecticut, so I think that number was especially alarming. But when you look at like obviously other municipalities in the states are in such densely forested areas with much less development. So no, it's definitely important, Erica.
Great.
I'm gonna stop sharing really quick.
All right. Any other new stuff to get us in trouble?
Okay, the next thing I wanted to mention something related to an annual event, the Norwalk Fire, Public Works and Police Touch a Truck open house is gonna be on Saturday, the 27th of September, from 9 to 12 at the usual location down at the Public Works Center on 15 South Smith Street. So we'd like to invite the Tree Alliance to have a table again this year if they'd like. And then obviously we'd like to have a table for the Tree Advisory Committee as well. We'll try and see if we can get trees delivered like we've done other years. So just wanted to make everybody aware of that, and we're looking forward to another great event this year.
Yeah, so Jeff, if the NTA wants a table, contact Paul. If anyone from the Tree Alliance would like, oh my gosh, the Tree Advisory Committee would like to have a table there, let Paul know, and then I'll be there with DPW and Rec and Parks. And then, yeah, like Paul said, we invite our contractors to table as well, but
What was that date again, Paul?
It is Saturday, the 27th of September, from 9 to 12.
Thank you.
We look forward to another great event. And I'll mention one other thing too, that we are asking people to bring any non-perishable food items to the event for the person-to-person food pantry in Norwalk collection.
Good. All right, we're good on new business. We'll turn it over to, I guess, Mr. Jeff for an update from our Tree Alliance.
Hey everyone, Jeff Scherer, President of Norwalk Tree Alliance. Happy to be here. So we usually take off, which we did for meetings in the summer. So we're hoping for a relatively quiet summer because that's what summers are for. However, it was not a quiet summer. There's been a lot going on. I will say, I'm happy to say or report that we've been keeping track, obviously, of our trees as usual. And to this point, we have, since last fiscal year reported, we have 122 trees in the ground. And that doesn't include, obviously, fall, which we anticipate more. This our busier time to install trees, but it's been a good year as far as getting trees in the ground, and we've been able to create efficiencies in getting things like trees in the ground. They've obviously all been native trees, and they've been healthy. So that's good. We'll continue to, look at ways to help supplement whatever, requests you guys get. But yeah, we've been getting requests and getting them in the ground, so that's been good. Then the second biggest thing that's been happening this summer is we've been putting together a scavenger hunt throughout Norwalk, in Norwalk parks and things like that. So all throughout the city, it's basically an education tool to get the community engaged, and that's up and running currently until the 2nd. So go to our Instagram, we can get you the directions. I believe we posted, and I believe the city has posted as well and helped us get the word out. Our tree nursery where we get the trees, Corville Nurseries, they've been also helping publicize this, and it's been a successful event. I think it's a new way to do some outreach and education, and also get kids in the community sort of outside and noticing trees and learning about trees. So that's been good. There's a incentive, there's a prize to win an Xbox. So while we want to get kids outside, we know that there needs to be an incentive, and unfortunately not unfortunately, but the video games is a way to do that, right? So if
Peter
we can
looked
get
excited.
Yeah, so there's just it's been good. It's all GPS activated. Each tree is sort of located through a GPS system. They go up to the tree through hints in different parks and historic parks and, let's say, calf pasture, right? So all throughout the city, it's self-guided. Obviously they need parents or guardians to get help get them there and transport them there safely, but then once they're there, they're in a safe environment and in parks, and they can go and find the trees through the hints, and then they answer quiz questions they need to get them right, and then they do it within, it's a timed event, so once you start it, you have, I believe, 3 days to complete it. And it runs until the second, so that's been really cool. We'll have to, once it ends, we'll get the analytics and see how successful it was. But seems to be a new way to interact and engage the community and help educate, so that would be cool. That is, for the most part, what's been happening. We also hired a summer intern, Stella, and she did really great marketing work for us as far as getting or putting together information on native trees and approved native tree plantings that you can get, and we put that up on our website. So it has an image of the native tree, the name, the Latin name, common name, Latin name, and then some information, and Peter helped us out with that as well, just getting
Forgot.
another pair of eyes on that, adding specific species or removing species. Myself and Alan Broadbent, the previous president of the NTA, helped out on that, all landscape architects. So I think it was valuable for her as far as experience goes. She created and came up with the tree scavenger hunt. She came up with, or she developed the marketing material and the tree list, so that was super helpful. And just did a lot of outreach, so it's been good. And then tomorrow, I believe, we'll be on News 12, promoting the GPS scavenger hunt. So we're hoping there'll be an uptick in that, and spread the word. If you need any information, I can get you the information you need. So we've been busy, and looking forward to a good fall planting season. We've also been keeping track of the locations throughout the city where our plantings have been going in, and I'm happy to say that it's been spread out throughout the entire city of Norwalk, which is encouraging to see. I will say that South Norwalk is probably the lacking area for our tree plantings, but I think that that's due to the lack of private land, and more so it's street trees and parks that get the trees in those areas. So I again encourage the TAC and the city to continue to plant and focus in those areas, and like Peter and the board mentioned before, focus it on the arteries and streets, and in that, where you can in those areas, creating tree pits, because they're super valuable, especially for the water systems that are huge public amenities to Norwalk and the communities, and they're just so important because they're unique to Norwalk and they create a sense of place. So keep doing that, and bravo to everybody.
No. And Jeff, I'm assuming that those trees are getting locked into or given, they're sort of contributing to our tree count with Sarah?
They get tallied up for every year. Every fiscal year, it goes into the Tree City USA report. So yes,
1,600 trees a year is a lot.
it is.
We need every one.
I don't, so I don't know.
Information from Jeff, try to get it from him usually November, December, so that when we apply for our recertification for the Tree City USA that he just mentioned, we apply for that usually the end of December and have to usually have it done by the middle of January. So we try to coordinate all of that together.
Yeah, Paul, is it 21 years currently and 19 years for growth?
21 and 19, and the 2-year difference is because you have to have been a Tree City USA for 2 years before you can apply for the growth award.
And then regarding, I don't know, as far as locating our trees on a GPS system, because they're on private property. I don't know if that information is appropriate, but we can do that. I mean, we have the addresses obviously, but I don't know if they want to make them public, so.
Yeah, we'd have to kind of figure that out, Jeff. I think it would have to be its own database. I think it's definitely worthwhile. We inventory in a house our adopted tree plantings, but we just want to keep it separate so that we know what's publicly owned and what's private. But
Yeah, and I think that's a great system, and I think as, you know, moving forward, continuing to do what we have been doing, you know, separately maintain our own records. Obviously, we're separate and like, it's two separate entities, one's public, one's private, but the numbers still are calculated into the ultimate tree
Yeah.
report.
One of
I
the
do-
things I just mentioned about the inventory too, the program that we had for several years that Lindsay had set up with the GIS in the city now too. Now with Tree Plotter through the Planet Geo and the master plan, there are two different programs and they're trying to be integrated together. And I'll let Sarah talk about how now trying to get the two of them pulled together so that it's all in one database.
yeah, now we've got everything just in one database, but the idea is to eventually have a community engagement map where members of the public could look at a live map and zoom into like your address and see like, oh, that's a maple tree outside my house or things like that. And I think, Jeff, it'd be nice if we had a system where at least the city and NTA could at least view you know, locations where trees have been planted, even if there's not additional info. So that'd be great to get to a point where we could do that.
Yeah, we have them marked on, it's a Google database right now. So I don't know if those two systems could talk. Right now, we just have them marked as far as the location of the properties, not necessarily if they're in the front or back, but at least if we know the address, we can go out with the GPS system and tag it quick and get the species on it.
No, sounds good.
All right, I think we're fairly much done for the evening. Anything else? So motion to adjourn at 6:59. We're doing good. Motion to adjourn?
Make that motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Very good. Talk during the next several weeks.
Now my audio works.
All right.